we are live. Go ahead, get the participants. All right, welcome everybody. We got a couple people joining in on this Lunch and Learn. I see Alex, I see Leah, Liana, Debbie, Brian, Kim. Ooh, look at that. We got a nice full room over here. Welcome everybody. Awesome. All right, we got Kirsten Johnson. All righty, welcome everybody. All right, yeah, we have no pre-submitted questions, and I'll be your host for today. And it looks like Alex has a question. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to allow you to talk, Alex. Welcome to the Lunch and Learn. How can I help you?
Thanks. Yeah, I got two quick questions, I hope. The first one is I have a development environment that's at version 8.19.
Okay.
And a production environment that's at 8.6.
Oh, okay.
So can I move objects between a future version and an old version?
So the answer is yes and no. So yes, you can, but you just have to be very, like, it depends on what changes were made between 8.6 and 8.19. So so for example, let's say in 8.19, there's a new step we created, right? And that new step exists in 8.19, but then let's say you try to transfer it over into your prod server, that step may not exist then in 8.6, so your process may break. However, if you're not utilizing some of the newer features in 8.19 and you're just using the commonality features of 8.6 and 8.19, then you'll be okay. But it is recommended that you do have like the same version of both your prod and your dev.
Yeah, okay. I mean, my thing is that we're still testing to get the 8.19 into production, but in the interim, I don't want to be held up. And no, I'm not using any of the new features. So
okay, cool. Well then, yeah, you should be fine.
I fall into the yes side of the equation. Okay, great. And the other thing is, if how do I go about like synchronizing like Active Directory groups into decisions?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me share my screen on that. I don't have an ADD setup configured, but what I can show you is where that configuration would be. So if you have, oh man, I have to remember. I'm going way back when I used to do this. So what you need to do is inside of, I believe it's settings, and I believe it's Active Directory settings. If you have an Active Directory server configured, you should have an ability to be able to toggle that synchronization process. Here, you can specify if you want the entire domain, certain org units and groups. And once you have that, there should be an option that allows you to trigger that here. It might either be in the settings, or it could also be, I know in scheduled jobs, when you install it, there could be a job that allows you to run that. There we go. Perfect. You have to configure a new AD-Sync job. And then once you have that connected after you've created your Active Directory settings, then you can configure when you want this AD-Sync job to run. So if you have a new hire come in, then you can have a sync run at the start of a Monday, and then their account will get added into decisions.
Okay, so can you look at in security groups? Like, do you have any groups defined there?
I don't have the privileges to connect to an AD server to test this.
But like in the just in the groups.
Oh, like in the settings part?
Right there. No, right there. Okay, so now if you open up one of these groups.
Yep. Well, it's right here to the right.
No, but I mean, like in my groups, I seem to have the ability of selecting whether I want to synchronize this. Is that?
Yes. Yeah, but that option will be found in the Active Directory settings. So if I go here, I go to Active Directory settings, I add a server, then I can say what are the default groups that I want to sync with, and then I can pick from that group option.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and if you do need help, let us know, because I can easily submit a support ticket on your behalf to the support team, and they have a lot of technicians who can get on a call and screen share with you, and they can help you with the specifics if you have more questions about like the specifics of that.
Okay, great, appreciate that.
Awesome, cool. Let me make a note of that. I'll make sure we Let me do that. If you can, Alex, could you just post your email in the chat?
Yep.
So I can go ahead and submit that support ticket on your behalf. Thank you, sir.
I'll write that down for
Alrighty.
you, Jim.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. All right. I'm going to move on to the next person. We got a couple of people asking questions. I love it. All right. So we got Encore. Rajput asked a question. Encore. And I have one question regarding the advanced data grid. I'm going to allow you to speak, Encore. And how can I help you?
Hey, thanks. I was just looking where I have mic. Thank you.
Mhm.
Actually, we are implementing advanced data grid in a form, and that grid is actually getting used on multiple dashboards. So we are using try to achieve add one delete function as an inline function. And
Okay.
when we are trying to update the report, it is not getting updated because every time send data folder event required a folder ID instead of report ID. So how we can achieve that? Actually, we go to the documentation. There is one user action also. We tried with both, and we are not able to achieve that delete functionality.
So you're trying to, so this is an advanced data grid on a form, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that's gonna, so basically advanced data grid uses the like report designer kind of features, but it unfortunately it doesn't allow us to, it's not attached to a folder, right? So one of the things that we'll have to do is, let's go ahead, I'll just like, let's say test and 80G. I'm just gonna create a flows folder and let's go ahead and kind of create this. All right, so I'm gonna create a form. And so the end goal is you want to be able to have a process that displays an advanced data grid where users can edit or update data, and then it will reflect in the database.
Yes, yes, correct. The main
Okay.
main motto is there would be, let's say, 5 rows in the data grid, and user would able to delete 1 or 2 rows at its wish.
Sure. Okay. Gotcha. So then here's what we'll need to do. So I'm gonna I'll create this really quick for you, and then I can send this to you as an example. So what you'll need to do, let's say this is editing and advanced data grid. So we're gonna have our advanced data grid. I'll use my done button. We're gonna get our advanced data grid, add this here, put this over here, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to utilize the accounts data type in my system. And so I'll delete like one of the accounts so you can see how this works. I'm going to use, let's see, I think it's inline edit. I want to show delete action perfect, and the account type will be over here. And sure, you can enable show actions if you want. Output data is going to be updated accounts, right? So what we'll have to do is, in order to do this, we'd have to create a process, because what the advanced data grid does here is all it does is just displays data in the report-like format. But if we do want it to actually write those records or say, hey, let's remove this data so it doesn't exist, then what you would need to do there is you need to attach it with like a delete entity step, or like a step that actually deletes that data. Just deleting it from this information is not going to remove it, and I can demonstrate that functionality. So let's go ahead. I think I got my form configured. I may have to do some editing for this. We'll do demo the ADG. I'm just going to fetch entities. We'll go to, oops, I need to show form. Over here, results, pick create, pick existing. I'm going to pick this, attach this to here, select from flow. Oh, I didn't set the type name. So we're going to set the type name to account. I'm gonna grab this, edit. Now I got edited results done. And then I can debug this and I should see all of my accounts here. And I have the option to delete. So let's say I have a couple of accounts here. Let's say I want to delete one of these. One thing you'll notice is that because I fetch the data, like, right, you can see this right here. Because I've fetched this data over here, all it's doing is it's just saying, hey, I'll fetch the data. Here's the list of data, and here's it's displaying on the form. So if let's say I delete this one and it totally gets removed, right? I don't have designer user at decisions.com in this output anymore. If I click done, then what you're going to see if I look at the view input outputs is, just for summary, I'll have 7 accounts, but then on my outputs, I have 6 accounts. So what you'll need to realize what's happening here is all it does is it just says, sure, I'll delete that item from that list. But just to illustrate this further, I'm going to go into my localhost again, and we're going to go into the settings here, and you're going to see I still have that designer user at decisions.com still active here. It did not remove that account. So what do we got to do? So in order to do that, what you'll need to do is you'll need to say, all right, let's go ahead and add a delete step to this process. Or you'll need to say, design more in-depth actions inside of the active form flows. Like you can utilize active form flows to then say, okay, if this is the selected account, grab the selected and then remove that from existing. So it's going to be a couple of extra logic fields that we'll have to go for. But that's why the advanced data grid has that functionality. Did that answer your question?
Yes. So I have to use active form flows in order to use that delete functionality.
Right. If you want to say, yeah, because all the delete functionality built into it is just removes it from that list. So if you actually wanted to go to the database and say, hey, find this corresponding record and delete, you have to add a couple of more extra fields to it. What I can do is I'll take this offline and I'll develop a couple of ways how you could handle that. And I'll create like a custom data type with some data that you can kind of experiment with and see how it works. So if you just put your email in the chat, I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah, actually, instead of delete option coming as a right click, can we add inline function, inline field delete on the data grid? Actually, we are trying to achieving that, and that is where we are not able to refresh the grid like you did just now by that show delete default function.
Yeah, so you're trying to use one of the calculated columns here.
Yeah, inline, just give one delete name and then run a flow with deleting function. That is
Yeah,
what we are
is
doing.
this
But
one? Yeah, it's that one, just test. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about this. So I have test. Let's say I configure test to delete, right? Let's say that's a custom delete option, right?
yes,
You can do that. But the thing, you'll have to go back and use active form flows, right? Because what you can do is if I delete one of these users, right? I delete the, like I said, I delete the designer user. Now this list has been updated. Now if you want it from this test flow process here, then what you'll have to do is you would have to run an active form flow that gets triggered when someone interacts with this, and then it will update that data, right? Because that's to say, put the output of that information back into the form.
okay, and it will update the this grid automatically, or we have to send something like folder event.
So you won't need to send so you don't need to send a folder event for stuff on the form because the form's not on a folder, right? Unless you have like a form tile or things like that. But if you're running it like here, then that's out of the question because send folder change event only works on dashboards because the page is tied to a folder. So that's why you have to use active form flows to be triggered, and then it will put that data on that advanced data grid, the updated version as the input of that data grid, but thus changing it. And so that's why to have more of a dynamic experience, you would have to use active form flows.
Okay, got it.
Mhm.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Awesome. Yeah, if you could, Ankur, just put your email. I'll create a project for you, and you can take a look at it.
Yeah, sure. I'm sending.
Perfect. All right. So that's that question. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, I think Leah asked the question. Yep, Leah's next. All right, Leah, I'm gonna go ahead and allowed you to talk. So you have a question over, can you use a for each step, then add to list to create multiple lists at the same type, but with different names? Could you expound upon that?
Yeah, so we're feeding in some data, like a list of email addresses, and then wanting to use a for each step to create a list, an individual list for each of those email addresses. So leah@gmail.com, jared@gmail.com. For the for each step, I want to create a list of the same type, but for each email address. Does that make sense?
Oh, for each email address, you want like a group by?
I don't know if it'd be a group by, but like a new, like at the start of a flow, just create a new blank list for each email address.
And you want to add that email into that list?
Add the email into the list or rename it somehow so we can add other items to that list associated to the email address later on in the flow. So basically, we're looking at like some type of routing logic, like these 10 cases go to me and these 5 cases go to you. So the cases, the IDs or the referral IDs or whatever would be in the list under that particular email address. But we're getting all the email addresses from the start at the beginning of the flow in like a request ETO.
Okay, so that data is not apparent anywhere else. That happens on the fly.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see how I can figure. That's a very, very good question. What I would do, what this sounds like to me. So let's say we're just going to create this on the fly and see what we get. Let me go ahead, don't save this. I'm going to create another one real quick and let's see if we can demonstrate this. So we got some, I think, flows and forms, and this is for each experiment. Let's create that. So what I would think what would happen is that what we would do is for each demo flow for each. So let's say I got my for each step here, right? And let's say this is going to be a list of strings just for the sake of your example that you gave. And then what I'll do is we'll do a constant. I'll say this is Jared@Gmail. So where is I think the only thing that I'm still trying to understand is where is this list coming from that we would know who belongs to which like list. So I'm gonna say, so how I'm thinking of is Jared, he has clients A, B, and C, right? And that's the list he deals with. And then Leah comes in, oh, if it's Leah, it's a client's X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's say in the request ETO, we're sending over the list of active email addresses like Jared@Gmail and Leah@Gmail. And then we're also sending in a list of different referrals.
Okay.
And in the flow, each referral will go through a truth table.
Okay.
And based on conditions, state, etc. So let's just make it simple. Based on state, we would assign that referral to you. So I want to add it to your list that we create earlier in the flow.
Oh, okay. So I think I'm kind of understanding. So are you trying to do it in a way? So let's see.
There might be an easier way to think of it, but but the referrals and the email addresses will come in at the beginning step, and then we want to sort those referrals to the different email addresses that may change day to day.
Gotcha. That may change day to day. Okay, so we got those emails, we loop through those, and then I'm assuming this process, I'm just gonna put a placeholder just so I can slowly understand this. And let's say this is like, imagine this is like get referral or something, get referrals. Then you have a truth table somewhere here that evaluates that. And so your question is, how do you put the referral to that specific user?
Yeah. How do we create a list of referrals to go to each user based on the outcome of the truth table?
How, what data type are these are these referrals, do you know what decisions data structure it is?
I think it's just a simple flow structure, and we would pull in information about each individual referral, like a list of referrals. We pull in a referral ID and then the type of referral and then the state that referral is from.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's no store format. You're just flow structure. It's got the format, and then you put it in. Okay. Because what you could do is, if you want referral tied to a specific user, what I would recommend is you can create a decisions assignment or a task. The big problem here is, since we're using flow structures, we have to have some place to store that information so we can refer back to it, right?
Right.
So if we create an assignment, and what you would do is we'd actually have this in like an asynchronous way, because if I just for each and go to this assignment and then it pauses, then it's going to say, hey, I've assigned Jared his assignment. But then let's say you have those 3 customers, right? But it's going to wait for me to finish before it gives you your 3, which is not a behavior we want. So what we would do.
I actually had a different question for a different day that kind of is the same, related to this. Is there a way to do a counter? So when Leah at gmail.com gets to 15, then the referrals would go to the second person that matches in that truth table or something like that. Right now it's just conceptual.
Sure. And the answer is yes. So how I'm thinking of this is, right, we'd have like some type of so how we would have to do this is we would need like some type of advanced data grid. And when we have that advanced data grid, then we can assign that task. And then when you fetch that assignment, you can then read how many is in that list. So let's say I have the referrals that you're talking about, right? You can fetch by the assignment of who's assigned to. In this case, you can fetch our assignments data type, and then you can count the advanced data grid that's on that assignment and say, okay, is the list greater than 15? And then if it is, you can go and get that. So it's going to be a little bit of logic to build out. Yeah, data repeater would also work, as Alex was talking about. Would also work in that regard. But that's kind of the what you'd have to do next for that information.
Okay. Yeah, we can play around with that.
Yeah. So, but the thing I do want to emphasize, so make sure that when you do create these assignments, because this is going to have a weird behavior if you don't do this, make sure you use the start linked flow async step right here. And then this assignment's actually going to be inside of this flow. This is just a subflow that runs those assignments as an asynchronously, so that it will process everyone's assignment. So if you have me, you, and Jeremy, right? And if you have to loop through all of us and then create the assignments, then you can loop through mine, create my assignment, and then you'll go to the next one. If you don't put it in the start linked flow async, what's going to happen is it's just going to pause on me. And if I go on vacation for 2 weeks, then you're never going to see your work, and Jeremy's never going to see his work because it's waiting on me to finish. But if you use the start link flow async step and create that logic in here, then you will be able to just process everyone's.
Right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, I'm gonna go on to the next one. All right, so now we have, let me make sure that I got this one, we got another question. So anonymous. So someone asked, what is the best way to remove all entities from all projects, reorganize them into another project, and not mess up repository? Have something in repo to be able to roll back. I'm not sure if you submitted this. Do you mind letting me know who you are, and I can give you unmute you and we can talk about it? My initial impression of this one, anonymous attendee, is that if you're talking about from the repo perspective or from the dev perspective, what you could do is you can create a flow that I think if we go into here in internal services, and I want to say, I think it's the module service. There's a step that you can utilize to loop through all the entities that you have and remove those project associations and attach them to other things. That's what you could do. Module resource service, perfect. I'll just get dependencies. What? I thought there was more. Let's see, modules. Let's see. I thought there was. There is a specific step I'm looking for. Export, remove entities. I know where to find it. There's a specific one. Export wizard. There's a flow. There's a specific flow that actually has the step that I'm looking for, and you can utilize that step to be able to flow export. Generate ID export wizard should be flow. Import export wizard, that's the designer folder. Generate list of IDs, export, checkpoint, export for consistency. Let me type flow. All right, we're just gonna go to export and we'll go inside here and we'll be able to find it. Attach items to module, maybe it's this one. Attach to module. Let's see, where is this one? This one is decisions framework, import, export. Okay, so it's in the import, export. Import, export service. So if I go into integration, internal services, and then I find import, export service. Let's see, import, export service, then there should be a way I can attach to project and possibly remove. I'm for it. I can do some more research and find, let's see, remove project. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we do have a step that allows you to remove. And so you can remove multiple, you can say, hey, go in this folder, remove all these associations and stuff like that. And that would be what I'd recommend to answer that question for that. Yeah, but I'll keep searching and finding out because I know I've seen this step before. Export, let's do export wizard. Project folder, export dependencies flow, clear selected project. Let's just look at the export wizard flow. I want to see this one. Get all export module data. Sure. Get dependencies, attach to module. There is a remove. I know there is. Let's do this way. There's another way I can do this. I want to find out. I have a project here. So I'm going to do the global debugger because I want to figure out what process. Show global debugger. I'm going to show this off screen. And what I want to do is I want to right click this, manage. I think it's like export, remove from project. Yes. And then, yes, I want to remove these two things. Okay, perfect. So remove from project. Okay, so it's the remove from project. Yes, I found the flow. Alex asked, would version 9 address the need better? I mean, to remove data structures associated with the project. So not at the current configuration. We do have some later, changes in the future. In like later versions 9 where we'll do more changes to the repository. But right now, I think version 9.0.9.1, the repository is going to be very very similar to the version 8.1. The minor difference will be that it will just incorporate this new data type to capture Project Hub. But it's going to be the same process. There's not much difference in version 9 just yet. Here is the step that I was looking for. So over here, this is me just running the global debugger. If you're ever curious what decisions does in the background when you use actions to remove things from a project, you can find the step that it utilizes over here. So as you can see here, this remove from client step is the actual step that actually removes those projects from that associated project. And so now what I can do is, since I know that the flow is called remove from project, I can go back into my search remove from project. And I can go into this flow. Now you want to be very careful. This is a system-wide flow, so you never really want to edit these. You never ever edit because you'll break checking ins to the repository. You'll break a lot of other things in your system. You will just utilize these things to see, okay, what is the step that's being utilized? And we see here that it is utilizing just a designer repository client service. So if I go to the designer repository internal services category, I can find this remove from client step, and I can get a list of those entities to remove. So that's the step. I knew it existed somewhere. It's just been a while since I've used it. So that's what I'd recommend for that one. All right. Any other questions over Lunch and Learn? Brian, Debbie, Jeremy, Leona, Marla. So we got one more. I submitted a question about the SQL tool. Let's see. Oh, let me look back at the questions. Let's see. Going here. Let's see. Okay, I don't see it. Oh, all right, awesome, Brian. I'm gonna set you up as I'm gonna allow you to talk, and if you could just elaborate on that one. I'm not seeing that one come in, but it could be I just missed it because I'm a part of a ton of channels. So yeah, so what's your SQL tool question?
Yes. So we have a SQL connection string set up, and it was working fine. And I created an external entity to use that connection and pull in data from our SQL database.
Mhm.
Yesterday, as I was setting up one of our fetch configurations, it just like broke. And now, like when I press run query on the tool, like it errors out, and it doesn't save any of our queries that I try to save on the tool.
Mhm.
That's like all the details that I have, and I don't know why that is. Was wondering if y'all would know why it's not getting saved. It was like just all of a sudden, and everything on our SQL side is working properly.
Mhm. Yeah. So do you know what the is there any logs in the administration system tools logs? Like whenever you run that flow, does it show any information on like error couldn't connect to the database or something like that?
I'll try to run it right now and see what I
Okay.
get.
Yeah. Because that would be the next step. Because what it sounds like to me is that maybe there's something like the account that's trying to talk to that external database, doesn't have the right permissions. Maybe it lost its password or something like that. That's what that sounds to me, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing any errors come in. Like on the logs, I'm not seeing anything come
Mhm.
in.
On the flow itself, when you debug that flow to like process it, does any of the steps error out that we can look at the details there?
So when I press save, it just says flow run error. So when I go back to the edit, when I press edit query, press next on existing string, and when I go to the bottom and press run query, there's no like error.
Oh, I know where you're at. Okay, you're doing like a
Mhm.
query integration and you're trying to.
Yes.
Oh, I see. So yeah. That could be. I know. Yeah, that is a hard one. I know that could be. What's the type of database you're connecting to? MS SQL.
Yes, in SQL.
Oh, okay, so just MS SQL. Because I'm wondering, there could be something. Let me do create data types and integrations.
Oh, did you say
Go
what
to.
kind of SQL?
Well, is it? It's it. Well, I was wondering if like what's the database? Is it Oracle, Postgres,
Oh
MS
yeah,
SQL?
it's Microsoft, yes.
Is
So
Microsoft?
yeah,
Perfect.
SMS.
Okay. Cool. Integrations. Database integration. Add a query.
Yep.
I'm assuming you probably would say new connection.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip this. 'Cause I don't have a connection. I'll say the query name is. I don't know. Do something. Let's see. Do something. Let's see if I. And what you're saying is happening is like you have this thing. Let's say.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right, and I'm gonna misspell this on purpose so that, and then when I run this query, then it's that just as error
Yeah.
running it.
Yeah.
What I would do, have you confirmed that that query works? Like if you go into your MS SQL and you run the same query, does it return data?
I actually haven't tried that, but let me see.
Because that would be the one thing to verify. Because it could be that there's some like the query is not valid, and maybe an SQL thing that we'd have to configure.
Oh wait, wait, something errored out on my query side or on my
Yeah.
SQL side.
Okay. So that could be what it is. That's probably where the problem resides. Because all this does is it just actually, the error just says, hey, I try to execute the query talking to the database, and then says, hey, I couldn't run this query.
Okay, now it's working. Yeah, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
I added an extra D on my address.
Gotcha.
Oh man, frustrating. I was waiting on this all day yesterday.
It happens. It's always the small things, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful to know. I just didn't know how to like what the problem is. So it was like hard to troubleshoot, but that's helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Anytime you're doing it with integrations, decision just tries to talk to that thing. And if it errors out trying to talk to it, then it's usually either a format or a connection thing. But since you said you established connection, most likely wasn't that. And it was just, query.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That's it for me.
Cool. Let's see. Next person. Let's see. Nicholas Case. Oh, did Nicholas drop? The question is setting. Question, is there a setting that's to be turned on for notification assignments, send email steps to send email stakeholders? They use Outlook. All admin users seem to have a problem getting emails to Outlook, but non-admin users. Question. Oh, Ryan. Okay, Ryan. Do you mind elaborating on this? Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so Nick and I created a workflow, and we're admin users on that. And during testing, we're assigning ourselves the email, or I guess the group that we're part of, assignments, and then we get notifications, or Outlook gets filled by them as we're testing it. But since we moved to production, like a different server, and we've launched the flow live now, that seems like those emails don't come around to our stakeholders.
But it still comes to you and
Nick. Yeah, I think it still does. I have to ask Nick about, because I think he hasn't added me in the groups as much, but
okay.
Yeah, the notifications don't seem to be going to them. So I'm wondering if there is a setting like that on maybe on the dev server, which may have been set up for us or something like that. It had the setting on, and then you have to actually physically do something on prod to make it.
Sure. Yeah. So the one thing that I'd make sure is I wish I had access to this on let me go ahead and I'm just going to create another flow example flow. There is essentially, long story short, all I'm showing is if we can confirm that the SMTP server on the dev server is pointing to the same thing as the prod server.
Okay.
Because if emails aren't going out and decisions is running and it looks like there's no errors, right? Because if I go to a send email step,
yeah,
and maybe you're utilizing this in your process, there is an advanced settings content, or SMTP settings, where you cannot use the default ones. And if you know the correct SMTP settings, you can put it in here, test it. If it works, then okay, I just need to change the default SMTP server on the prod server so that you don't have to go to every time you use the send email step and then make this change. You just set it on the prod server, make the change, and then that will propagate to all send email steps you utilize in this process.
Okay. So, and the same with the, I guess in this case, the assignments, right? Assignments that go out, like we want the notification to hit their Outlook. Is it how, I guess, does this explicitly have this step?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't have the ability. Well, I mean, we can test that out. I don't think it does. But what assignments do you utilize to assign and to send the emails?
Yep.
Let's see, let's go to assignment setup, email notifications, let's say custom. Like the people that it sends to, this is like if they're assigned to it, it will send that email to them. But the assignments process also utilizes the default SMTP server. So the send email step, my recommendation was just use that as a test to see if it's different. Because if it does work on the send email step once you make that change, then that means the default SMTP server that the send email step would use if you don't configure it, and the add task step you use is not valid, and that's why it's not sending emails.
I see.
It's all contingent on if you and Nick don't get those emails, right? Because if you do get those emails and it's fine for you, then it's a different issue. But right now it sounds like it might be just the SMTP was configured on dev server and just not on prod. That's my educated guess.
Okay. So, I mean, let's just go down the path here that let's just say Nick and I do get them. And then our stakeholder, the other people that are non-admins are not getting them. what do you think the issue would be?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We could walk around that. So the next thing would be is checking the groups that that you have assigned to, and just verifying that let's say you have one of the stakeholders, right, that wants to know, hey, we got this merger request going on. What's the status of that? Then make sure that that user is a part of the group that has this assigned, because by default assignments will only send that notification email to users who are in that assignment group.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
So that'd be
So
the
check
only
the-
thing to check. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think
Cool.
yeah, we'll double check and come back to you if that's the case.
Sure.
We did have a second question. I'm not sure if it's still my turn or somebody else.
Yeah, no, go right
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I typed it out to you. It was the so as part of the same workflow, I unfortunately I don't think I can show you on my screen just because I don't have access to it.
Sure.
When someone a stakeholder gets an assignment in their decisions inbox, for example. Let me they have permissions to basically change the name of the assignment, and we'd rather than not be able to do that. Is there
Sure.
permissions for that?
Yes, there are permissions for that. And there's also a couple of things you can do. So there is this cool thing. Let me find this document for you called configuration extensions. And what that does is it allows you to say, hey, I want to add, I want to filter out certain default actions like
Yeah.
that one. And so that certain groups won't see that action. So let me get you that document. Configuration extensions. If I could spell, I can't, my goodness, I can't spell. Perfect. Creating configuration extensions. This will walk you through like what it would do. I'll give you the summary. I'll put this in the in everyone.
Okay.
So what this allows you to do in short summary is this gives you a configuration folder for the assignment data type.
Okay.
And so then what you can use is you'll have access to this certain capability called action visibility rules.
Okay.
And what action visibility rules, like it says, it just allows you to say, hey, you have a rule. You can create a rule that says, hey, if the user is Jared, filter out the, change assignee or any of the default group actions for that type. And so when I log in to see my assignment, all I can do is the action that you created for me, which is review merger request or whatever. And I won't be able to mess with it and change it. Here's another document I'll send as well that it just talks about action visibility rules specifically.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
So the assignment, I guess, is the assignment itself a default data type in decisions?
Yes, sir. It's its own entity in decisions. So because it's its own entity in decisions, you can create another dashboard to store it in. You can store it in different folders, and you can create additional configurations for it.
Okay.
Utilizing the configuration extension.
Okay. You know what? Do you mind if I share my screen? Maybe I can.
Unfortunately, I can't because this is recorded. We'll put it to YouTube, and I don't want you to show like sensitive data, and then it's out for
I
the
see.
world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I can do is if there's something specific, put your email in. I'll submit a support ticket for you, and one of our support staff can get on a call and help you out.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we can do that. So is this on the? Okay. Should I just put my email here?
Yep, just put your email here. I got a notepad that I'm keeping track of that I'll put it in. Perfect. Gotcha. Yep. I'll go ahead and get you that added, and I'll create a ticket for you, and you'll get an email with it, and a support technician will reach out to you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Awesome. Alrighty. I think that's all of the questions that I see. All right. 12:46. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and end the lunch and learn so we can get this uploaded to YouTube. So everyone who had questions can, see the answers or review back to it and all that stuff. But thank you so much for attending. We had a great attendance. I enjoyed having you all on. Tomorrow, I'll also be hosting. So if you have even more questions, you won't, if you get tired of me, well, I'm sorry. I'll still be there for tomorrow. So, but if that's it, everyone, have a great rest of your day.